Rain lashes against the towering glass of a Manhattan penthouse, the city skyline glittering like a promise stretched thin. Inside, Richard Caldwell stands alone, his silhouette carved against the storm. At 52, he's a tech titan, a name whispered in the same breath as Musk or Bezos, his AI startup rewriting the rules of the world. Billions in the bank, a Tesla for every mood, and a family photo on his mahogany desk. A radiant wife, a glamorous daughter, a thoughtful son. Picture perfect, right? But tonight, Richard's staring at that photo like it's a code he can't crack. What if it's all a lie, he murmurs, voice barely above the thunder. The question's been clawing at him for months, sharp and relentless. Do they love him, the man who built this empire from nothing, or just the life it buys? His wife's smile feels tied to dollar signs. His daughter's world spins on likes and filters. Only his son seems to see the cracks in the facade. Tonight, Richard's about to risk everything to find the truth. And what his daughter does next will break your heart and maybe restore your faith. Stick around, because this story's about to unravel in ways you won't see coming. The penthouse hums with the pulse of a Friday night gala, chandeliers casting diamond light across marble floors. Waiters weave through the crowd, balancing trays of champagne and caviar canapes, while New York's elite senators, CEOs, a stray influencer or two mingle in tailored suits and glittering gowns. The air smells of money, crisp bills, Chanel No. 5, and ambition. At the center of it all is Richard Caldwell, his charcoal suit sharp as a blade, shaking hands with a venture capitalist who's begging for a stake in his next app. But his eyes keep drifting, searching for something he can't name. Across the room, Grace Caldwell holds court like a queen, her emerald dress catching every light. At 48, she's still got the glow of her influencer days, when her fashion vlogs racked up millions of views. Now she runs charity galas, though the charity part often feels like an excuse for new diamonds. Richard's latest deal, she says to a cluster of socialites, tossing her hair. Oh, it's massive 6 figures just for the beta test. We're redefining the game. Her laugh rings out, polished as the crystal in her hand. But Richard notices she hasn't asked him about work in years. Not really. Near the dessert table, Sophia, their 22-year-old daughter, is in her element. Her phone's propped on a mini tripod, ring light glowing like a halo as she films for her million TikTok followers. Guys, check this caviar, it's giving main character energy, she purrs, pouting for the camera. Her sequined mini dress sparkles, and her hashtag Zasha Elite Vibes shut billionaire life trend before the clip's even live. A tech bro slides up, offering her a flute of Dom Pignon. She winks, not because she likes him, but because it'll look good in the next story. Sophia's world is a stage, and she's a star every moment curated, every smile a transaction. But in a quiet corner, away from the glitter, stands Daniel, their 19-year-old son. Hess lanky, with a mop of dark curls and a thrift store sweater that clashes with the room's sheen. A freshman at NYU studying philosophy, he's got his dad's sharp mind, but none of the hunger for flash. He sips a soda, watching the party like it's a puzzle he's too tired to solve. His gaze lands on Richard, and he weaves through the crowd, dodging a drunk hedge fund guy to reach him. Dad, Daniel says, voice low enough to cut through the noise. Can we talk? Richard smiles, relieved to see a face that doesn't feel like a mask. Always, kid. What's up? They slip onto the balcony, the city sprawling below yellow cabs, neon signs, a pulse that never sleeps. The storm's cleared, leaving the air crisp, and Daniel leans against the railing, his breath fogging faintly. This, he gestures back at the party, all of it, it's a lot. Mom's selling your name like it's stock. Soph's filming every bite she takes. Sometimes I feel like we're all just props in your empire. Richard's chest tightens, like someone's turned a key in a lock he didn't know was there. He built this life from nothing, a kid from Queens, coding in a basement while his dad, Jay, the subway conductor, worked double shifts. Money buys things, not truth, his father used to say, and Richard swore he'd never forget it. But now, surrounded by wealth, he feels like a stranger in his own home. Grace's laughter, Sophia's filters, The endless parade of glass there, a script he didn't write. Only Daniel, with his quiet questions, feels real. You're not props, Richard says, but the words taste hollow. You're my family. Daniel meets his eyes, steady and searching. Then why does it feel like we're performing? Dad, are we happy or just rich? The question lands like a stone, rippling through Richard's core. He thinks of Grace's latest charity bill, $50,000 for a gala that fed her ego more than the hungry. Of Sophia's posts, each one a plea for validation. Of the way he stopped expecting them to ask, "How's your day? Happy?" Hess not sure he knows the word anymore. Back inside, the party's winding down. Grace air kisses a senator's wife goodbye, already planning the next event. Sophia is flirting with DJ for clout, her laugh a little too loud. Richard watches them, his family, and feels the distance, widen a chasm no check can bridge. He slips into his private study, the door clicking shut behind him, and pulls out his phone. His CFO, Michael, answers on the first ring. "Mike," Richard says, voice low, resolute. "It's time. Freeze the accounts. Tank the stock. Tell Bloomberg and broke." Michael's voice crackles, cautious. "You sure, boss? This'll shake your whole world. Grace, the kids, everyone." Richard stares at the family photo on his desk, his thumb brushing Sophia's smile. "That's the point," he says. "I need to know who they really are." He hangs up, the city's hum fading to a distant roar. Tomorrow the world will think Richard Caldwell's empire has crumbled. But the real collapse? It's the one he's about to uncover in his own home. And as he steps back into the party, one thought burns clear. The truth is coming, and it's going to cost him everything. The morning sun cuts through the penthouse blinds, sharp and unforgiving, as Richard stands in the living room, his hands clasped tight behind his back. The space feels different now, too big, too quiet, like a stage after the curtain's fallen. Last night's gala is a memory, replaced by the hum of a single TV in the corner, tuned to Bloomberg. The headline blares in bold red, "Caldwell tech collapses, billionaire bankrupt overnight." A reporter's voice drones on. Sources say Richard Caldwell's AI empire has crumbled. With stocks plummeting and creditors circling, it's a lie, of course, orchestrated by Richard himself. But the knot in his stomach feels real. He glances at the family photo on the mantle. Grace's poised smile, Sophia's pout, Daniel's steady gaze, and wonders if he's about to lose them for good. Grace bursts in first, her silk robe trailing like a storm cloud. She's clutching her phone, her face a mix of fury and disbelief. "Richard," she snaps, waving the screen at him. "What the hell is this? Bankrupt? You're joking, right?" Her voice is a blade cutting through the morning calm, and Richard feels every inch of it. He takes a breath, steadying himself for the performance of his life. "It's not a joke," he says, his tone heavy, practiced. "The company tanked. Bad investments, lawsuits, everything's gone. The banks froze our accounts this morning." Grace's eyes widen, her manicured nails digging into her phone. "Gone? As in nothing? You're telling me we're broke?" She laughs, sharp and bitter, like she's waiting for the punchline. But Richard just shakes his head, letting the silence answer. Sophia stumbles in next, still in last night's makeup, her hair a messy bun of glitter and hairspray. She's scrolling TikTok, oblivious until Grace snaps, "Sophia, put that down. Your father's ruined us." Sophia's head jerks up, her glossed lips parting in a gasp. "Ruined?" she echoes, eyes darting to Richard. "Dad, what's Mom talking about? Like broke? No way." She refreshes her feed, as if the internet might contradict him, but the Bloomberg ticker keeps rolling. "Caldwell fortune wiped out." "It's true," Richard says, meeting her gaze. "We've lost it all, the penthouse, the cars, the accounts. We're starting over." Sophia's phone slips from her hand, clattering on the marble floor. "Starting over?" she shrieks. "You mean like poor? Dad, I can't, my followers are freaking out. I'm trending for this?" She pulls up a post, her voice rising. "Hashtag Caldwell crash? Are you serious? I'm not built for this." Daniel appears in the doorway, quieter than the rest, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He's been up since dawn, probably reading Nietzsche or something equally heavy for a 19-year-old. His eyes flick from Grace's rage to Sophia's meltdown, then settle on Richard. "Dad," he says, voice calm but searching, "is it really over? Everything?" Richard nods, the lie tasting sour. "Yeah, Dan, everything." He pauses, then adds, "But we've got one place left, my dad's old cabin upstate. It's not much, but it's ours. We leave today." Grace laughs again, this time colder, like ice cracking. "A cabin? Upstate? Richard, I'm not some flannel-wearing, granola-crunching nobody. You expect me to live in the woods?" She crosses her arms, her diamond bracelet glinting, a reminder of the life she's clinging to. Sophia's right behind her, voice climbing. "No Wi-Fi, no AC. Dad, we'll die out there. My brand's tanking as we speak. Do you know what this'll do to my engagement?" She's filming now, her phone back in hand, narrating to her followers. "Guys, my dad lost everything. I'm being dragged to some cabin hashtag tragedy." Daniel steps forward, his sneakers scuffing the floor. "Maybe it's not the end, Mom, Soph. Maybe it's a chance to, I don't know, figure out what matters." His words hang there, soft but steady, and Richard feels a flicker of warmth his son, the one who sees him, not the empire. Grace rounds on Daniel, her eyes flashing. "What matters? Don't start with your college boy nonsense, Daniel. We had a life penthouse, galas, respect, and your father flushed it down the drain." She turns to Richard, venom in her voice. "You're useless, you know that? A failure. How do you lose billions overnight?" Richard doesn't flinch, though her words sting like salt in a cut. "I didn't mean for this, Grace," he says quietly, "but it's done. The cabin's all we've got." Sophia scoffs, tossing her hair. "Then you go, Dad. I'm staying here. Someone'll take me in. I've got DMs from guys with private jets." She's half serious, her defiance a shield, but Richard sees the fear in her eyes, buried under the bravado. Daniel shakes his head, almost whispering, "We're a family, Soph. We stick together, right?" But his question gets no answer, just Grace's glare and Sophia's eye roll. By noon, the penthouse is a ghost town, overshared by Michael to sell the lie card out furniture, leaving echoes in their wake. Richard packs a single duffel, jeans, a few shirts, his dad's old chessboard. Grace stuffs a Louis Vuitton suitcase with dresses she'll never wear upstate. Sophia crams her ring light and makeup into a backpack, muttering about content ideas. Daniel carries a box of books, his face unreadable but calm. The drive upstate is long, the city's concrete fading to rolling hills and pine forests. Richard's behind the wheel of a rented SUV, nothing fancy, just part of the act. Grace stares out the window, silent but fuming, her perfume clashing with the car's stale air. Sophia's in the back, headphones on, filming a road trip aesthetic that's all fake smiles. Daniel sits beside her, sketching in a notebook, his pencil scratching softly. He catches Richard's eye in the rearview mirror and offers a small nod, like a lifeline. The cabin comes into view as dusk settles, a modest wooden structure perched by a glassy lake. It's no mansion, just 2 bedrooms, a creaky porch, and a stone fireplace, but it's got history. Richard's dad built it by hand, a retreat for summers when life was simpler. The air smells of cedar and earth, and the silence is loud, broken only by crickets in the lap of water. Richard steps out, his boots crunching gravel, and feels a pang of nostalgia. This is where he learned to play chess, to dream big, to be more than his circumstances. Grace climbs out, her heels wobbling on the uneven ground. "This is it?" she says, voice dripping with disgust. "This shack?" "Richard, you've got to be kidding me." She wraps her arms around herself, as if the cabin might infect her with its simplicity. Sophia hops out, phone raised, but her face falls. "No signal? Are you serious? This is like medieval." She spins, filming the trees. "Guys, I'm officially off the grid, send help." Daniel sets his box down, taking it all in the lake, the stars peeking through the pines. It's kind of peaceful, he says, almost to himself. Feels honest, Dad. Richard smiles, a real one, the first in days. Yeah, Dan, it does. He unlocks the cabin, the door creaking open to reveal a dusty living room. A plaid couch, a wooden coffee table, a fireplace stacked with old logs. It smells of time, of memories, and Richard feels his dad's presence in every knot of the wood. Grace storms past him, tossing her suitcase on the couch. I'm not staying here long, Richard. Fix this or I'm gone. Her threat hangs heavy, but Richard just nods, his jaw tight. Sophia flops onto a chair, groaning. This is a nightmare. No Wi-Fi, no vibe. How do people even live like this? Daniel starts unpacking, his voice soft but firm. Maybe we figure it out together. You know, like a family. Grace laughs, cold and final. Family? Your father killed that when he lost everything. Richard turns away, stepping onto the porch to breathe. The lake reflects the first stars, and he pulls out a small notebook, his journal, a habit he's starting to keep the lies straight. He writes, Day 1. They're angry, but that's expected. Am I breaking them or setting them free? God, I hope it's the latter. He closes the book, the weight of his plans settling like the night around him. The test has begun, and there's no turning back. The upstate cabin wakes to a chorus of birds and the soft ripple of the lake, but inside the air is thick with tension. It's been 3 days since Richard's bombshell bankruptcy yanked his family from Manhattan's glitter to this creaky wooden retreat, and the novelty, if you could call it that, has worn thin. The morning light slants through dusty curtains, catching motes of dust that dance like ghosts of their old life. Richard's in the tiny kitchen, fumbling with a percolator that smells faintly of his dad's coffee, trying to make breakfast from canned beans and stale bread. His journal lies open on the counter, a fresh entry scrawled in blue ink. Day 3. Grace hasn't looked at me since we got here. Sophia's glued to her phone, chasing bars like they're gold. Only Dan's keeping me sane. Is this what I wanted? Grace sweeps in, her silk scarf a stark contrast to the cabin's rough edges. She swapped heels for flats, but her posture screams Fifth Avenue. Beans again? She says, wrinkling her nose. Richard, this is inhumane. I'm not a pioneer woman. Her voice carries an edge sharper than yesterday, like she's tallying every inconvenience as evidence against him. We're making do, Grace, Richard says, keeping his tone even. There's a market in town. Maybe we can get fresh stuff today. Making do, Grace laughs, cold and brittle. You dragged us to this hovel, and you're talking about markets? Fix this, Richard, or I swear. She cuts herself off, grabbing a water bottle and storming onto the porch, leaving the thread unfinished but heavy. Sophia's sprawled on the couch, phone raised like a lifeline, muttering about signal strength. 1 bar, then nothing. Ugh, this place is cursed. She's in sweatpants now, her sequined gala dress a distant memory, but her nails are still perfect, a defiant splash of red. She's been filming cabin diaries for TikTok, though without Wi-Fi, they're just piling up in her drafts. Dad, she says, not looking up, when's the internet guy coming? I'm losing followers every second I'm offline. Richard sighs, stirring the beans. No internet guy, Soph. We can't afford it right now. Her head snaps up, eyes wide with panic. Can't afford it? Dad, my brand is dying. Do you know what this looks like? Hashtag Caldwell crash is still trending. People think like homeless. She's half joking, but the fear in her voice is real. A crack in her curated armor. Daniel emerges from the back room, a hammer in one hand, a bucket of paint in the other. He's been tinkering since dawn, fixing a leaky window, his philosophy books stacked on the floor. Maybe it's not about followers, Soph, he says, setting the tools down. Maybe it's a chance to, live for real. Sophia rolls her eyes, tossing her phone onto the couch. Spare me the TED Talk, Dan. Some of us have actual lives to maintain. But her bravado falters, and she glances at the window, where the lake sparkles like a taunt, beautiful, but useless to her. Richard catches Daniel's eye, a silent thank you passing between them. Dan's got a point, he says, trying to bridge the gap. This place, it's where my dad taught me what matters. Work, family, building something with your hands. We could try that together. Grace, back from the porch, overhears and scoffs. Building. Richard, you're delusional. You lost billions, and you're preaching about hammers and family. I didn't sign up for this. She grabs her purse, a Prada relic from better days, and heads for the door. I'm going to town. Maybe someone there has a shred of ambition. Where are you really going, Mom? Daniel asks, his voice calm but pointed. Logic holds him steady. He's noticed her quick exits, her too perfect makeup for errands. Grace freezes, then recovers with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Book club, Daniel. Some of us still care about culture. She's out the door before he can press, her flats crunching gravel as she heads to the SUV. Richard watches her go, his gut twisting. He knows it's no book club. Grace hasn't read a novel since her influencer days. But he says nothing, jotting in his journal. She's slipping away. Expected, but it still hurts. He turns to the kids. Let's paint the porch today. Make this place ours. Sophia groans but follows Daniel outside, more to avoid boredom than to help. Richard watches them, paint cans clanking, and feels a flicker of hope. Maybe the cabin's simplicity will crack their shells. Maybe, but Grace isn't at a book club. She's at the Rusty Heron, a gastropub in town where the locals mix with weekenders from the city. The place smells of craft beer and cedar, its polished bar reflecting string lights. Grace sits across from Derek Vaughn, a real estate developer in his late 40s, all slick hair and tailored blazer. He's got a Rolex that screams new money and a smile that promises more. They met yesterday at the market when he accidentally bumped her cart and offered to buy her coffee. Now he's buying her a martini and Grace is soaking it in. You don't belong in that cabin, Grace, Derek says, leaning close. A woman like you? You're meant for lakefront views, private chefs, the good life? I'm building condos up here, luxury, exclusive. One could be yours. Grace sips her drink, her eyes narrowing but gleaming. And how does that work exactly? I'm not naive, Derek. Her tone's playful, but her mind's calculating, logical, in its own twisted way. Richard's failure has left a void, and Derek's offering to fill it. He chuckles, unfazed. No strings you don't want. I'm a man who sees value, and you're undervalued out here. Leave the cabin, the has-been husband. It'll set you up right. He slides a business card across the table, his number scrawled on the back. Grace tucks it into her purse, her heart racing. This is my way out, she thinks. Richard's done, but I'm not. She justifies it cleanly. She's not betraying him, he betrayed her first, with his collapse. It's survival, not sin. She smiles at Derek, sealing the deal without a word, and heads back to the cabin, her step lighter, her lie ready. Meanwhile, Sophia's found her own escape, the town's only bar. The Tipsy Pine is a dive with sticky floors and a jukebox that plays Springsteen on loop. She's there most evenings, sneaking out while Richard thinks she's napping. Tonight, she's perched at a corner table, sipping a gifted cocktail, her phone propped to catch the vibe. Jake Russo, the bar's owner, slides into the seat across from her. He's 40, broad-shouldered, with a wedding ring he doesn't hide but doesn't mention. Yesterday, he gave her a pair of Ray-Bans to feel like herself again. Now he's promising more. You're too bright for this town, Sophia, Jake says, his voice low, coaxing. Stick with me. I'll hook you up, new phone, maybe a trip to the city. My wife's not well. She doesn't get me like you do. Sophia twirls a straw, her smile calculated. And what's in it for me, Jake? I'm not here for small talk. Her logic is simple. Richard's failure erased her spotlight, so she'll claw it back however she can. Jake's gifts are a start, his attention a balm for her bruised ego. He leans closer, grinning. Name your price, kid. I've got connections. His hand brushes hers, and she doesn't pull away, filming a cryptic Instagram story instead. New vibes, new me. She knows it's risky. Jake's married, the town's small, but she's betting on charm to outweigh consequences. What's the worst that could happen? The worst arrives faster than she expects. The next afternoon, as Sophia lounges on the cabin porch, scrolling through dead drafts, a woman storms up the path. Marla Russo, Jake's wife, is 38, wiry, with fire in her eyes and a voice that carries. You, she shouts, pointing. Sophia Caldwell, right? Stay the hell away from my husband. Sophia sits up, unfazed, popping her gum. Whoa, lady, chill. Jake came to me. Maybe check your man instead of yelling at me. Her defiance is logical to her. She's not the married one, so why's it her fault? Marla's face reddens, her hands balling into fists. 18 years, 2 kids, and you think you can waltz in with your selfies and ruin it? Has my husband, not your sugar daddy. The words hit like punches, but Sophia just smirks, filming subtly for drama. Sounds like a you problem, she says, standing now, her voice dripping venom. Jake wants fresh, not whatever you're serving. Step up or step off. Marla's eyes glisten, but she doesn't back down. You're a kid playing with fire, Sophia. You'll burn. She turns and stalks away, leaving Sophia alone with her phone and a flicker of unease she won't admit. Richard steps out from the cabin where he's been fixing a loose board, his face a mask of pain. He heard it all very word. Sophia, he says, voice low, is it true you are messing with that woman's husband? Sophia shrugs, picking at her nails. So what if I am? You lost everything, Dad. I'm surviving. Her logic holds firm. Richard's failure justifies her hustle, no matter who gets hurt. He steps closer, his voice steady but aching. You're young, Soph. You've got a future. Why throw it away on this? You're better than that. She laughs, bitter. Better? Look around, Dad. We're eating beans in a shack because you screwed up. Don't lecture me on better. She brushes past him, slamming the door, leaving Richard with the echo of her words. That night, Richard finds Sophia alone on the porch, the lake silver under a half moon. She's scrolling old post-spent house nights. Gala glam her face lit by the phone's glow, but her eyes are tired, not defiant. He sees a chance, a crack in her armor, and takes it. Soph, he says, sitting across from her, the wicker chair creaking. You haven't talked to me in days. What's going on in that head of yours? She doesn't look up, her voice sharp. What's there to say, Dad? You dragged us here. My life's gone followers, vibes, everything. Richard leans forward, choosing his words like steps on thin ice. Your life's not your followers, kid. It's you, the real you. I see her sometimes when you used to draw comics, remember? Before the filters, the likes, he's thinking of her old sketchbook tucked in his bag, filled with superheroes she'd invent as a kid. Sophia's fingers pause, a flicker crossing her face memory, maybe regret. Then she snaps, that girl's gone, Dad. You don't get it. I need to be seen. But her voice wavers, like she's convincing herself. He pulls the sketchbook from his jacket, its edges worn, and sets it beside her. Found this when we packed. Thought you might want it. He stands, giving her space. I see you, Sophia. I just wish you saw yourself the way I do. She waits till he's gone, then glances at the sketchbook, her fingers hovering. She doesn't open it, not yet, but she tucks it into her bag, a small act no one sees. The night feels bigger than her anger, and for a moment, she's not sure why. Back inside, Richard and Daniel are painting the porch railing, the air thick with turpentine and trust. Daniel's been quiet since Marlo's visit, his brush steady, but his mind heavy. Dad, he says, setting the can down, I'm scared we'll lose Mom and Soph. They're choosing something else. Richard nods, his throat tight. I know, Dan, but we can't make their choices for them. He dips his brush, the motion grounding him. My dad used to say, wealth is what you build, not what you buy. We're building something here as this place. That's what matters. Daniel smiles, faint but real. Yeah, let's keep building. They work side by side, the lake reflecting starlight, while Grace and Sophia drift further into their own worlds. But the cracks are widening. Richard overhears Grace on the phone that night, her voice hushed but clear through the cabin's thin walls. Derek, I'm serious, I'm done with him. Get that condo ready, and I'm yours. Richard freezes, his journal open, pen trembling. He writes, the truth's coming and it'll cost us everything. The test is working too well and the fallout's only beginning. The cabin's living room feels smaller tonight, the walls pressing in as the 5th day of Richard's test draws to a close. The air smells of pine and paint, the porch railing now a crisp white, thanks to Daniel's steady hands. A single lamp casts shadows across the plaid couch where Sophia slumps, scrolling through her phone's dead drafts, her face a mix of boredom and defiance. Grace paces by the window, her Prada purse clutched like a shield, her eyes darting to the lake as if it might swallow her whole. Daniel sits cross-legged on the floor, a philosophy book open but unread, his gaze flicking between his family members like he's bracing for a storm. Richard stands by the fireplace, his journal tucked under his arm, its pages heavy with 5 days of truth. Grace is gone, body here, heart elsewhere. Sophia's chasing shadows. Dan's my anchor. This ends tonight. The spark comes that afternoon when Richard's phone buzzes with a text from Michael, his CFO. Journalist at Wired sniffing around knows the bankrupt site's fishy. Drop the act soon or it'll blow up. Richard's pulse quickens, not from fear of exposure, he's got lawyers for that, but from the realization that the test has run its course. He's seen enough. Grace's secret calls to Derek, Sophia's fling with Jake, Marla's tearful confrontation. Daniel's loyalty, shining through the chaos, is the one light in the dark. It's time to show his cards, to see if truth can salvage what's left. He clears his throat, the sound cutting through the cabin's tense hum. Family meeting, he says, his voice steady but weighted, like a judge calling order. We need to talk. Grace stops pacing, her eyes narrowing. Talk? Richard, unless you found a way to unfreeze the accounts, I'm not interested. Her tone's sharp, but there's a tremor beneath it. 5 days of beans and no Wi-Fi have frayed her polish. Sophia doesn't look up, her thumb still swiping. If it's about painting another wall, I'm out. This place is a vibe killer. Her voice is casual, but her shoulders are tight, like she's waiting for a blow. Daniel closes his book, setting it aside. I'm listening, Dad. His calm grounds the room, a quiet strength Richard clings to. Richard steps forward, the floorboards creaking under his boots. I got a call today, he starts, choosing his words like steps through a minefield. A consulting gig in the city tech firm. Decent pay. It's not billions, but it's a start. We can move back, get an apartment, rebuild. Grace laughs, a cold, jagged sound that echoes off the walls. Consulting? You, a consultant? Richard, please. I'm not trading this shack for some cubicle life. She crosses her arms, her purse dangling. Derek's got plans, real plans. A condo, lakefront, gated. I'm done waiting for your comeback. Richard's jaw tightens, but he expected this. Derek's name has been a ghost in her calls, her excuses, and hearing it now only sharpens his resolve. He turns to Sophia. What about you, Soph? You in for a fresh start? Sophia finally looks up, her red nails tapping her phone. A city apartment? With what, roommates and ramen? No thanks, Dad. Jake's got connections, bars doing fine, and he's talking about a pop-up in Brooklyn. I'm good here. Her smirk is practiced, but her eyes flicker, like she's convincing herself more than him. Daniel shifts, his voice soft but firm. Brooklyn sounds better than this, Soph. We could be together, figure it out as a family. He's pleading, not preaching, but Sophia just rolls her eyes. Family? Grace snaps, rounding on him. Your father killed that when he tanked our lives, Daniel. Don't play, sent it's exhausting. Richard raises a hand, silencing the room. His heart's pounding, but his voice stays calm, deliberate. Before you decide, there's something you need to know. He pulls his phone from his pocket, the screen glowing with a banking apone he hasn't touched. Since Manhattan, there's no consulting gig, no bankruptcy either. I never lost a dime. The words land like a thunderclap, freezing the room. Grace's purse slips from her fingers, hitting the floor with a thud. Sophia's phone clatters onto the couch, her mouth open. Daniel's eyes widen, but there's a glint of suspicion, like he's been half expecting this. What are you saying? Grace whispers, her voice raw, like she's afraid of the answer. Richard taps the app, turning the screen to show a balance. $2.7 billion. The numbers glow, undeniable. A truth brighter than the lamp. This was a test, he says, his voice steady but heavy with 5 days of lies. I needed to know who you really are, whether you loved me or just the life I built. The penthouse, the cars, the accounts, they're all safe. This cabin's my dad's, but I own a tower in Midtown. I'm still Richard Caldwell. Grace stumbles back, catching herself on the couch. You tricked us? Her voice rises, cracking with fury and shame. You let me live like this beans, no shower, this dump for a game? It wasn't a game, Richard says, his eyes locking onto hers. I gave you a mirror, Grace. You showed me your heart sneaking off to Derek, planning to leave the second things got hard. Her face flushes, guilt warring with defiance. You don't get to judge me, she shouts. You failed us first, dragging us here, humiliating me. Derek saw my worth when you didn't. Richard turns to Sophia, softer now, hoping for a crack in her armor. And you, Soph? I heard about Jake, saw Marla crying out there. You chose that over us, over yourself. Sophia's smirk falters, her hands trembling as she grabs her phone like a shield. You're twisted, Dad. You lied to us, made us suffer #psycho. I needed Jake because you left me with nothing. But as she speaks, her eyes dart to the sketchbook on the couch, the one Richard left her nights ago. A memory flickers her at 10, drawing superheroes with him on the penthouse floor. Laughing, no filters, no likes. The contrast hits like a wave. Her sketches were hers, not for clout, and she hasn't felt that free since. She hesitates, fingers brushing the sketchbook's worn cover. She opens it, almost against her will, and sees his old note in faded ink. Draw your truth, Soph. It's enough. Her breath catches, eyes glistening, not with tears, not yet, but with something close. Doubt, regret, a question she can't voice. Did I lose me? But pride surges back, a wall she's not ready to climb. You don't get it, she mutters, slamming the book shut. You ruined everything. Daniel stands now, his voice cutting through the chaos. He didn't ruin us, Soph. You and Mom chose Derek, Jake, all of it. I stayed because Dad's enough, money or not. His words are quiet but fierce, logical in their clarity. He's seen the test truth not in Richard's wealth, but in their actions. Grace rounds on him, her face a mask of rage. Enough. Look at us, Daniel. Your father played God, and you're siding with him. You're as delusional as he is. She grabs her purse, storming toward the door. I'm done with you, with this cabin, with this lie. Derek's waiting. Sophia hesitates, the sketchbook still in her lap. Daniel steps closer, his voice soft, pleading. Soph, come with us. You don't need Jake or followers. You're bigger than that. His logic is simple. Family over fleeting gains. A truth he's held since the start. But Sophia shakes her head, her voice breaking. You don't get it, Dan. I can't go back, not after this. She grabs her bag, the sketchbook tucked inside, and follows Grace out the door. The slam echoes, final as a gavel, leaving Richard and Daniel in the lamplight's glow. Richard sinks onto the couch, his phone dark now, the app's billions meaningless. I thought maybe they'd see, he says, voice raw. I thought they'd choose us. Daniel sits beside him, his hand on Richard's shoulder. I saw it, Dad. I knew something was up. Nobody loses billions that fast. But I stayed because it's you I care about, not the money. His smile is faint but real, a lifeline Richard grabs tight. You're my truth, Dan, Richard says, his voice thick. You passed the test I didn't even mean for you to take. They sit in the silence, the lake whispering outside, the cabin holding them like a promise. Grace and Sophia are gone, chasing illusions, but Richard knows this isn't the end. Not yet. His journal waits and he writes, they chose and it broke me. But Dan's here, and that's enough to start again. The truth's out, but the fallout's just beginning, and Richard's ready to face it with one son by his side, and a door still open, if only a crack, for the rest. The cabin door's slam still echoes in Richard's ears as dawn breaks over the lake, painting the water in streaks of gold and pink. Grace and Sophia are gone. Grace to Derek's promises, Sophia to Jake's bar, leaving the air quieter, emptier, but somehow lighter. Richard sits on the plaid couch, his journal open on his lap, the lamp flickering as its bulb nears its end. Daniel's asleep in the back room, his steady breathing a balm to the night's chaos. Richard's pen moves slowly, ink bleeding into the page. They chose, and it's done. Grace took her pride, so her anger. Dan stayed, and that's my lifeline. Time to build again, not for them, but for us. He closes the book, his chest tight but resolute. The test is over and the truth has carved its path. By noon, Richard and Daniel pack the SUV, the cabin's simplicity fading into memory. Richard locks the door, his fingers lingering on the worn knob his dad's retreat, now a crucible of clarity. "You okay, Dad?" Daniel asks, slinging his backpack over his shoulder, his philosophy books tucked inside. Richard nods, managing a smile. "Yeah, Dan. Let's go home, not the penthouse. Something real." Daniel's eyes light up. A quiet agreement, and they hit the road, the upstate pines giving way to highways, then the hum of Brooklyn's brownstones. Richard's not chasing midtown towers or gala lights anymore. He's after something solid, something his dad would have recognized. They settle into a brownstone on a tree-lined street in Park Slope, 3 stories. Warm brick, a rooftop garden with string lights Daniel rigs up that first night. It's not lavish, but it's theirs. Hardwood floors, a kitchen with a beat-up table, a living room where Daniel's books stack beside Richard's chessboard. The penthouse is still his, leased out for now. It's billions safe in the trust Michael's guarding. But this feels like a start. Richard pours his energy into his tech firm, pivoting to ethical AI software that helps, not exploits, mentoring Daniel through late-night coding sessions. "You've got my brain, kid," he says one evening watching Daniel debug a line, "but your heart's your own." Daniel grins, tapping the keyboard. "Learn from the best, Dad. They're building more than Codia bond forged in the cabin's ashes, rooted in trust, not transactions." Weekends find them at a youth center in Queens, where Richard grew up. They teach chess and coding to kids with sharp eyes and sharper questions, kids who remind Richard of himself at 15, hungry, not entitled. Daniel shines there, patient with a 12-year-old who beats him at pawns, and Richard feels his dad's words alive again. "Wealth is what you build, not what you buy." The brownstone's walls fill with photo snot galas, but moments. Daniel laughing with a kid over a checkmate, Richard planting herbs on the roof, the two of them at a Nets game, sharing fries. It's not perfect, but it's real, and Richard sleeps better than he has in years. Grace's story unravels faster than she expects. She moves into Derek's lakefront condo a week after storming out, her Prada suitcase unpacked in a half-finished shell of drywall and exposed beams. The place smells of sawdust and lies Derek's a fraud, his development a Ponzi scheme propped up by loans he can't repay. The gated community's a myth, the luxury a sales pitch. Grace realizes it too late when the power's cut and Derek's phone goes straight to voicemail. His bolted, leaving her with a lease she can't afford and a closet of dresses mocking her from hangers. She sits on a folding chair in the dim living room, scrolling old gala photos on her phone. Her and Emerald's, Richard shaking hands with senators. The likes are gone, the comments stale. She could call him, beg to come back, but her pride's a wall too high to climb. He tricked me, she tells herself, her logic warped but firm. This is his fault. She lands a job at a boutique in town, selling overpriced scarves to tourists, her smile tight as she counts change. The condo's a ghost town now, in Grace's alone, her dreams of queenship reduced to a faded Instagram grid. Sophia's fall is slower, messier, but just as inevitable. Jake's promises new phone. Brooklyn pop-up evaporate when Marla goes nuclear. She posts a grainy video online filmed at the Tipsy Pine. Sophia laughing, Jake's hand on her shoulder, the Ray-Bans glinting. The caption's brutal. Homewrecker alert, keep your man away from this one. It's small-town drama, but Sophia's million followers amplify it. TikTok explodes Hush Caldwell. Crash morphs into hashtag Sophia scandal. Her comments flooded with fire emojis and yikes. Her numbers tank, sponsors ghost her, and Jake cuts ties. His bar's Yelp page drowning in one-star reviews from Marla's friends. Sophia's stuck working shifts at the Tipsy Pine, pouring beers for locals who whisper behind her back. The sketchbook sits in her bag, untouched for weeks, its weight a quiet nag. One slow night, she pulls it out, flipping to Richard's note. Draw your truth, Soph. It's enough. She grabs a pencil, sketching a girl not a superhero, just herself, alone at a bar, no filters. It's rough, shaky, but hers. She doesn't post it, can't, with no signal worth a damn, but it's a start, a crack in the shell she's built. Jake offers her a ride home, his grin sly, but she shakes her head. Not this time, she says, her logic shifting. Maybe clout's not worth the cost. She's not ready to call Richard, not yet, but the sketchbook stays close. A month later, Richard sits at the Brownstones' kitchen table, a small box in front of him. Inside are art pencils professional grade, engraved with your truth and a letter he's rewritten 3 times. Daniel watches from the counter, stirring coffee, his eyes curious but gentle. You sure about this, Dad? He asks. Richard nods, sealing the envelope. Yeah, I don't know if Shell read it, but I have to try. That's what dads do. He's tracked Sophia to the Tipsy Pine through a mutual friend no stalking. Just a hunch and the package is headed there, not to force her back, but to leave a door open. The letter's simple, his handwriting steady. Sophia, it'll always be your dad, no matter where you are. The test wasn't to hurt you, it was to see you, all of you. I saw the girl who drew comics, who lit up a room without a camera. The door's open not to my money, but to you. Draw something real. Love, Dad. He hands it to the mail carrier the next day, no expectations, just a quiet hope. Back at the bar, Sophia's wiping down tables when the package arrives. She opens it alone, the pencils cool in her hands, the engraving catching the dim light. Her fingers trace your truth, and she unfolds the letter, her breath hitching at love, Dad. She doesn't cry pride still there, but she tucks the letter into her sketchbook. Beside the bar girl sketch, she keeps the pencils in her apron, a weight she doesn't shake off. Some gifts take time to open, the narrator might say, if this were a video, and Sophia is not sure what that means yet, but she's thinking about it. Richard and Daniel sit on the brownstone stoop that evening, the Brooklyn sky streaked with dusk. Kids play ball across the street, their shouts mingling with the city's hum. Daniel's got a soda, Richard a beer, and the silence in between them is easy, earned. Think Soph will call? Daniel asks, his voice soft, not pressing. Richard takes a sip, the bottle cold against his palm. Maybe, maybe not. But we don't wait for people to change. We build what matters. He gestures to the brownstone, the rooftop lights twinkling above. This is ours, Dan, you and me. Daniel nods, a smile tugging his lips. Yeah, let's keep it real. They clink their drinks, the sound sharp and clear, a promise sealed in the fading light. The camera, if this were YouTube, would pull back, the brownstone glowing against the skyline, a symbol of what lasts. The narrator's voice would kick in, warm but firm. Money buys a lot, but only love builds a life. Richard tested his family, lost some, kept what mattered. Grace chased a mirage, Sophia's finding her way. And Daniel? He's the rock. What would you choose, riches or real? Tell us below.